welcome to CTR, where our mission is to connect people with horses who wouldn't otherwise have the chance. And since we can't be together this summer, we are going to bring virtual horse-powered learning to you. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 4, which is brought to you by Stanley here. He is a 6-year-old quarter horse who is currently learning how to be a therapeutic riding horse in our program. He's going to help us show you a little bit of insight into the daily life of a horse at CTR. With your episode this week, you're going to be receiving this handout. It's actually 2 handouts. It's a blank schedule of the day in the life of Stanley. And as we go through the episode today and explain our horse's routine, I want you to either write or draw pictures of what they do in each portion of the day. The second handout is a day in the life of you, and this is your chance to draw or write your daily schedule. So come along with us and follow us as we show you a day in the life of a CTR horse. In the early morning, the first thing we have to do is go around, look at the barn, open all the doors, and fill some water buckets. Let's go. The first thing we're going to put water buckets in all the horses' stalls. Gallons of water, so we always want to make sure they have plenty of water while they're in the barn. Alright, the next thing we're going to do before we bring the horses in the early morning is drop their feed buckets. They each have their own feed pan, and as you saw in the last episode, they all have their own carefully measured grain. So we're going to go ahead and put it in all their stalls. Heard in the last episode, he's going to get his own special food in a little while. So now we're going to go call the horses in and bring them in to eat. breakfast, they like to stand in front of their fans to cool down, and they usually doze off a little bit until we put them outside. It is about early afternoon, and this is how they're going to spend the good portion of their early afternoon into the later afternoon. Grazing, rolling, drinking, and swatting at the flies.
This program to bring you some more bad jokes.
Intro, and we'll check stirrups, and we'll check through.
Yeah.
And then
Hey guys, I have a joke.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, a horse walks into a diner, sits down at the lunch counter, and the server says, "Why the long face?"
Riding anywhere.
What's that?
Hey guys! I have a joke!
Yeah?
How did the farmer find his lost goat?
I don't know. How did the farmer find his lost goat?
He tracked her down!
Always shovel and poop. You know that? Never ending around here. Always shovel and poop.
Hey guys! I have a joke! Alright.
What do you call a sleeping bull?
I don't know. What do you call a sleeping bull?
A bulldozer! Alright, so it's later in the afternoon now, and it's time for Stanley to come in for a training session. So like I said earlier, Stanley is learning to become a therapeutic riding horse. And when CTR isn't doing horse-powered learning with you all, we also offer adaptive riding to children and adults with differing abilities. So it's important that Stanley learns how to be a therapeutic riding horse. To do that job, he needs to be calm and quiet in sometimes stressful situations. He needs to be comfortable with wheelchairs and walkers and children and adults that may have a louder voice. So we are going to show you a little bit of how we work with him. Okay, so here we have Stanley next to our mounting blocks. On my right, your left, there is a low mounting block close to the ground that we may have our able-bodied riders using, versus on my left or your right, we have this big mounting ramp. And as you can see, it goes all the way around this corner of the arena so that our riders who cannot walk or cannot come up the stairs are able to roll their way up to get on to our horses' backs. Now, for our horses, as they come into this area right here, they can find it to be a little scary because these are so close together. And horses don't want to walk into areas that are really tight. So we have to get him used to coming into this area, but we also have to get him used to if someone's coming up the ramp on a wheelchair, he might find the wheelchair to be really scary. Or if someone's coming up on crutches, he might be scared of the crutches. So we have to teach him that anything that happens in this area is safe and okay.
All right, so one of the other things that we have to do with Stanley a lot is to get him desensitized to many of the objects and pieces of equipment that we use in our lessons. So you can kind of see it all around me here. And from the time we get on the horse in our adaptive riding lessons to the time we get off, we are doing interactive activities, stretches, games. The kids and adults are often throwing things or balls or playing catch or reaching for objects. And this is something that would be really new to a horse like Stanley, who is in a typical lesson program before he came here. So one of the things we've been doing is we touch him with all these different objects and see how he feels about it. So we're going to sort of demonstrate some of that. He has been working at this for several months now, so we hope by this point that he is calm and relaxed. We're looking for relaxed body language when we are doing this. So horses don't like anything up near the top of their heads. So we do kind of crazy things. We act really silly because we like to have fun here. We like to play ball.
He doesn't mind the hoop on his ear.
You can see he's become very comfortable with our shenanigans around here. Not fair. Pool noodles are very concerning to some horses. Good boy, Stanley. And we always make sure that we give him lots of praise throughout this whole process because I think he just thinks we are out of our minds. Woo! Hi, Stanley. I don't want to make fun of anyone. Beanbags. We never encourage our students to throw anything near our horses' faces, but it does happen sometimes by accident. So. And loud noises is the other thing that we want to make sure they're very comfortable with. keep in mind is that when we are working with him with different equipment, we want to do it from both sides. So you see that we've been standing on Stanley's left for now. We would typically also do it from the right. So as you can see, we do like to have a lot of fun with our horses, but it's also serious work because we want to make sure our lessons are safe and our horses feel safe as well. So with this episode, you're going to be getting sort of a fun little worksheet. There's going to be 2 pictures of Stanley with this setup of toys and equipment. One picture on the top is the main picture. And then the second picture, you want to circle the things that are different from the first picture. So make sure you have some fun with that.
So now that Stanley is finished his afternoon training, it is time for our evening turnout, so he's going to go join his friends in the paddock to graze. Now that all of the horses have been turned out for the evening, our job concludes by cleaning up after all of these horses. So they've been in their stalls, leaving us some smelly treats that we have to clean up. You saw our manure bins outside. Horses go to the bathroom a lot. So now we are going to clean all of that up, dump the water buckets, and close the doors and turn off the lights.
To run a farm than the things that you saw today in those short clippets. So apart from taking care of the horses, we also have to maintain the pastures, fix the fences, mowing, weed whacking, dragging the arena, making repairs, and that's just a very short list of the day-to-day things that go into running a farm. And CTR is unique because much of our facility maintenance and work around the farm with the horses is done by volunteers.
You got to see a day in the life of Stanley. We had a whole bunch of fun being able to work with him in the arena and take all of our props and toys and play with them around him so that he could get used to all the fun things we do in a therapeutic riding lesson. We also put in a lot of work bringing in the horses, feeding them, letting them back out, bringing them back in, all the things that go into owning a horse. And we got to fast forward through a bunch of it today and keep it in a short little video, but owning a horse is a big responsibility. You have to be able to take care of them morning and evening. It's a lot, but they're so much fun and we love them so much. This concludes episode 4. Remember that you can like us on Facebook or you can visit us at ctrchanginglives.org. Good night.
And now for some bonus footage. We're going to follow along over the next few episodes as we incubate some chick eggs. Hello everyone. So in the spirit of farm-based education, I know that many of you have seen or heard about the chickens that we have at CTR. And right now we're actually hatching some chicks in an incubator. Now, these chicks aren't going to stay at CTR. We are hatching them for somebody else that needs some chicks at their farm. But it's sort of a fun project and something different for you all to see. So this is the incubator, and the incubator sort of replaces the mother hen who would sit on her eggs all day, apart from sometimes getting up to get food and water for herself. She would sit and keep her eggs warm all day. In this case, the eggs stay in this incubator for 21 days, almost exactly. It should be 21 days. And you can kind of see in here, there's a turning mechanism that turns the eggs throughout the day so that we don't manually have to turn them. The eggs would otherwise need to be turned every few hours, and that sort of reduces the amount of time that we have to open the lid of the incubator, because as I will show you here at the control center, the temperature needs to remain pretty steady at 99.5 at all times. It might fluctuate to 99.3, 99.8, but if it stays at 98 or 100 for even an hour or two, it could terminate the embryo. So we want to leave this lid on as much as possible. The only time that we will take the lid off is to add water to the reservoir at the bottom of the incubator, and this maintains the humidity. So chicks need a humidity of at least 50%. You can see here it is 67, which in the room that the incubator is in, it's pretty warm already. So it kind of maintains a high humidity for us, especially since we are doing this in the summer. And this room is rather warm. So we really haven't had trouble keeping the humidity up. We are starting here with 24 eggs. They will most likely, we will not finish with 24 chicks because as you will see shortly, we don't know whether or not these eggs are fertilized yet. There was obviously a rooster at the farm where these eggs came from, but as you will see when we candle the eggs on day 8, then we will get a chance to see if the eggs are fertilized or not. All right, so stay tuned for the first time that we candle these eggs. Okay, so here's our first egg, and the term candling refers back to a time before they had electricity when they would actually use candles to do this. But basically, when you candle the egg, you shine a light into the egg to see what's going on in there, and you can easily tell if the egg is fertilized or not. So you can see our first egg here. The dark red portion at the bottom, that is where there is a chick forming, and then it is slightly a lighter red midway up where you can actually see some blood vessels in there. And then the top part, you see that yellow circle spot. That is a sure sign that there is something going on in this egg, because that is the air sac.
and the chick will need this air sac when it goes to hatch because that will be its source of oxygen when it breaks out of its amniotic fluid. So this is definitely a fertilized egg and a good start. And here is another one of our eggs. So you can very clearly see that there is nothing going on in this egg. So this egg was most likely not fertilized to begin with. You don't see an air sac. The kind of the yellow part that you see from at the top is just because that's the part that's closest to the light. You don't see any blood vessels in there or anything else going on. So this is definitely not a fertilized egg. So we will be taking this out of the incubator and discarding the egg because otherwise the eggs can actually explode in the incubator from the buildup of gas, being that the egg is not good. So we want to make sure that we get that out of the incubator today. Okay, and here is another egg. This one is a lot easier to see. You can definitely see the blood vessels, the air sac at the top. So this is great. We have another fertilized egg. And finally, here is another example of one of the eggs. I'm not going to show you every single egg that we did because there are 24 of them. But this egg, and there were a few of these, they were actually a very dark brown. So they were really hard to see into. We think they are fertilized, but we don't know for sure. It should be safe to leave them in the incubator for another week. At that point, we will be able to tell better if there is anything going on in these eggs. So we actually ended up only having to remove one of the eggs from the incubator. Right now, we have 23 eggs left in the incubator, and that number will most likely drop a little bit as the time goes on, but we are hopeful that we will have a nice number of chicks end up hatching. So that is the end of our first week where we ended with candling the eggs. About a week from now we will candle the eggs a second time, and we will hopefully see a lot more going on in the eggs than we did today.